All right, welcome everyone to our first meetup here in Seattle. We started a year ago, the same type of meetups, so we're building really a community of professionals. And we started doing it in Los Angeles, and this is the first time here in Seattle, but for online people, we actually are doing some meetups in New York, and I will show that a little bit later. So I'm very excited to start, and thanks Providence company for supporting us. So a little bit about TestPro. So TestPro is first of all, it's a bootcamp and consulting and staffing company. So we offer different courses like basic QA courses or automation courses, but it's not just about a business. As I mentioned, we're building a community. So yeah, this is the list of our next meetups, which we're gonna host in New York and Miami at the same time. It's for online people mostly. And another one is gonna be hosted in Los Angeles. And if you like it, guys, we will be more than happy to do it next month because it's usually a monthly event. So you're very welcome to join another meetup in Seattle, which we haven't announced yet. So here's a couple of links. So I hope you all know about Meetup platform, right? Meetup.com. So yeah, as you can see here, we have presence in 20 cities, and it's around 1,800 people already. So here's the agenda for today. The first presentation is going to be a native tools for UI automated testing for mobile platforms by Eugene Berezin. Thanks again for Providence. The next one is going to be Ask QA Manager. So we will cover some most popular interview questions for QAs on the resume, and hopefully it will help you to get your next job easier. And then we will talk about WebDriver IO, which is JavaScript framework for web automation. And of course, we're gonna do a networking session. So if you're looking for a job or you're hiring, that's a perfect place and time. So let's start with the first presenter, Eugene.
I can and you have to mute yourself. You should mute yourself. Yeah. Hey.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Digital Innovation Group, hosted by Providence St. Joseph Health System. My name is Eugene. I work with our iOS team, and one of my specialties at iOS team is test automation. I do UI test automation, API test automation, and in today's presentation, I'm going to talk about native tools for test automation. I want to talk a little bit about Espresso, but I want to give you a real life example of UI testing with the XCUITest for iOS. So, oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Will be like it will be like that.
How do I? Okay, you good? Okay, take number 2. Can everybody hear us? All right, sounds like everybody can hear us. So for people online, we are talking about native test automation tool for mobile, and for Android it is Espresso. And I made a little mistake on my slide. It is for languages that actually Java and Kotlin, and for iOS it's Swift or Objective-C. Kotlin is a new language for Android, and it's getting popularity like nowadays, and Espresso is compatible with both languages, either Java or Kotlin. So why native tools? The first reason is there's no dependency on external tool. For example, Google or Apple decides to update their framework. If you didn't know, here recently there was WWDC. It's a big conference for Apple, and they announced a lot of new frameworks, a lot of new tools, and a lot of new tools for their test automation framework. And let's say we take Appium as an example for mobile test automation, for mobile UI test automation. And they're highly dependent on native tools such as XCUITest under the hood. And normally, if you're using third-party wrapper for a native tool, they may not be up to date as soon as the tool is released or announced. So another thing is that it's really convenient for example, for XCUITest, you don't have to do any extra configuration on your environment. It's already out of the box. For Espresso, it's pretty much the same thing. You have to specify dependency in your riddle, and you're gonna have the tool right there and then. Like I said, you don't have to establish any like configurations that you have to do with Appium. Velocity. So per my experience, XCUITest is and Espresso test, they're pretty fast, and because you take out extra time to sync up two tools together. So like you just have to build your application that you're working with, and your test automation tool is already there. Maintenance. It's easier to maintain as a team because Espresso and XCUITest, they're native tools. So they're written in the languages that your mobile development team is working in. For example, for iOS, it is Swift, and iOS developers, they're more familiar with that. And for example, for my team, we have a rule, like if you break it, you fix it. Let's say they do a modification for UI. They have to change a name or a location for a certain UI element. So if they break my test, they're gonna fix it. And with that, it's pretty easy to maintain. Or like, for example, the person who is developing UITest is on vacation, and there's a feature going out, you don't have to wait for that person to come to the office or be available to update and maintain the test. So transparency. Per my experience, it was really good to work with the team together and kind of see what we're doing. I'm able to see and participate in PRs. And if you don't know what PR is, it's pull request when we review each other's code. And vice versa, they review my code and they see what I'm doing. We understand each other's logic. So if I need to update production code, for example, to put accessibility identifier to make my element more accessible, I can do that. And my team will be able to see that and either approve my PR or make recommendation how to do it better. And vice versa, when I submit my PR to the team, they see what I'm doing, and we can participate in a team discussion. How can we make our product better? How can we make our testing and UI testing more maintainable and more quality? And as I said, it's pretty easy to set up. You don't have to have extra configurations whatsoever. For Espresso, like I said, it's just a griddle configurations that you can specify, and Google provides the links and the configuration for that. For XCUITest, it's already there. When you start your project, you just have to select UITest, or you can modify your schema and select UITest in your schema, and you're good to go. I don't see anything here. All right. So what native tools can do, and native tools can handle native UI components, such as buttons, text fields, text, handle web views. So both on Espresso and XCUITest, there are libraries and there are APIs to handle your web views. And as we know, nowadays, there are a lot of applications working with web views, and sometimes it can be challenging. So native tools, like, they're handling it pretty well. With XCUITest, I'm not entirely sure about Espresso, but with XCUITest, you can work with web testing, with web browsers too. You can control your web browsers. So all you need to do is specify manual identifier for that browser, and you will be able to control. So for example, if your application transfers you to external website and you need to select certain actions on that website, you can do that with XCUITest. And now it's demo time. So, and for the demo, I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually create your XCUITest. So for that, I prepared my little demo test. So if you're new to iOS and XCUITest, so in your project, so you see a bunch of files here. You see like little, is it like a square? Like you go here and here are your tests. So, and then you specify which test you want to run. So, for UI test, there will be, you will see your unit test, and your UI test is normally under your unit test. And your step number 1 is to record your action on the screen. So, and if you look at Apple documentation, like Apple suggests that you record your action. They normally say and play it back, but I say don't play it back, because you don't want a tool to dictate what you do with your UI elements. So you, as a creator of the test, you should decide which action you want to perform. So let's see how XCUITest works in practice. So this is our application. And this is the application that Digital Innovation Group is working on. So it's a Swedish Health Connect app, where you can schedule your appointment with Express Clinic, or you can create your video visit or virtual visit, as we call it, with a nurse practitioner if like you don't have time or ability to go physically to a doctor. So, let's record my first action. So I have this application and I need to figure out where I start and how do I use my application. So I record my first action, and I would need to do something with this button area. So ideally I would need to swipe. So, and I want to start recording right here. And what I usually do before I go into test designing, I need to identify all the elements that I need for that particular test. And this is exactly what I'm going to do. So my next step will be to tap on Get Started button. And it's exactly what I'm going to do. And the reason why I start recording, because XCUITest will record my actions. And I don't want that, because I want to control my test myself. And it will be easier for me in the future to maintain it later on. So, and my next element would be, so like, let's say we have a scenario. I'm an existing user for Swedish Health Connect, and I want to log in into my app. So I see, I say that I'm an existing user. And here we go, we have this query. So like, you may notice that code right here is highlighted. So what it means, XCUITest offers you different options how to identify this element. So I will go with the first one because it is accessibility identifier. So, and I will report my next action. And my next action would be identify text fields and type text into text fields. So I will click on my text field here. And as you see, XCUITest offers me different options, how it will be able to see that option. So I will go with the first one again, because it is accessibility identifier. And our application is a little tricky. I have to first tap and tap again on text field to make the text field for XUI application. For user won't notice it, but test automation tool is extremely sensitive, so it will notice it. So I kind of have to tap it twice to like transform it from the button and from the label to text fields. And I'm still recording. The next element that I need is password. So I do the same thing. And see, like, if you want this highlight to go away with new Swift, you can just tap on it and it will fix itself. So it's a label, and I need to tap one more time to make it text fields. So now you see those elements, but these elements have actions. Tap on it. So I don't want my test automation tool or recording to dictate how do I want to interact with my application. So I will just remove all of the actions, and instead providing the actions, I will provide variables for those queries. So these elements, so XUI application, static text, buttons, scroll views, these are queries. Basically, this is how your XCUITest says, hey, go there, and then from there, go to that element, and that element, and that element will have this text, and this is how you grab it. So, and let's create variables. So it will be let swipe to, and it will take me just a little bit more time. So I will just name my variables, and I will create my actual test as soon as I create variables, so I can interact with those elements a little bit in a little bit better way. And if you're new to Swift, so if you want to create a variable that will be immutable, in other words, that you can change, you will provide let. If you want to create a variable that will be mutable, that you can change in the future, you will provide var. So I will provide let because I don't want to modify my my elements in the future. All right, so now we have a lot of warnings. So those warnings basically are saying, like, hey, you have variables, but you never used it. So do something about it. And I'm going to do something about it. So, and now I say swipe to begin. And instead of tap, I will say swipe left. I promise you it's not Tinder. So get started button. And for get started button, I can tap on it. And then existing user button, I will also tap on it. And then the email label, I need to tap on it, and then email text field. So if you're like, who is familiar with Selenium WebDriver? So for Selenium WebDriver, you would say send keys. So for XCUITest, you will say type text. Test at test.com. So then password label, we'll tap on it, and password text field, we will type text. Password. And this is our test, and let's run it and see what happens. And my machine is normally a little bit slower when I'm presenting, so my machine is a little bit shy, so don't mind it. So, and now, first it will build XUI application to control my production application, and that framework will build my Health Connect application and perform certain actions that like I coded in my test. And now it performs actions that I actually coded out. So, let me just put the UI right here. It's not really user. I just want to provide you a simple example how it works. So this is how it works, and this is how easy it is to start with like your test automation. It's not the final. It's not the final cut. So your test should look like that. You have to refactor your code. You have to create your pattern or like your framework, how you want to organize your code, and make your code maintainable and searchable. And so you can operate with your framework in the future. Now, I want to show you one of our tests that is already written and that we're using actively. And this test is change your password with invalid format password. So we have quite a bit of invalid formats. And to do it manually, it doesn't take the whole lot of time. It takes me like probably like 15-20 minutes like to install application and remember or go through my test case and type all of the invalid configuration for password, and hopefully I'm correct with every single configuration that I'm typing. So instead of that, I just automate it and I just run it automatically. So in just FYI, we have development in our system, so it may or may not pass. And if it's failing, I will show you exactly what it's doing in the logs. How many times XCUITest actually tries to pass your tests. It doesn't fail it like right away. It really tries to pass it. And like with a little bit of code that you can see, it's actually my framework. So I call those like methods on like from my framework. So it's not XCUITest test. It's a DSL that like we're using here at Providence. and like you can set your alerts. And now it will just go through all of the configurations that like will validate invalid format for the password, and it does it really quickly. So like, and test pass. So again, it's a really awesome framework, and in terms of like how and where it can be run, it can be run on CI/CD, like whatever CI/CD that you're using. It can be Bitrise, it can be Jenkins, it can be on the simulator, or it can be on real devices if you're using device farms such as like South Labs or Amazon device farm, whatever device that supports XCUITest framework that you can run them on that platform. So, and this is pretty much it for my presentation. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Hybrid apps.
Hybrid, yes. The thing with XCUITest framework, it will support hybrid apps, and if you have the ability to fire that from Xcode, like you can execute that application from Xcode, or you can grab bundle ID for the application, and if you operate on the real device, you control your app with your product.
Can you run up with multiple devices or device communications simultaneously, or is it one device at a time?
Yes. Could you just repeat it? So the question was, can you run can you run the test simultaneous for the multiple devices or simulators? Yes, you can. And with the new Xcode, with new Swift, it's even better. You can create your test plan, and you can actually specify variables. For example, for different state of the application. For example, if you work with a localized app, so your app is in Spanish and English. So you create test plan and specify certain values. Specify certain values for Spanish and English. Well, normally we want to run or we want to test. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, depends how your app is developed. You may keep in mind, like certain, like, for example, if your app has like system access or system alerts, for example, like allow location. For iOS devices, like once you run that application once on your device and like you start your suite over test cases, you kind of have to keep that in mind and like. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. You can specify your users and your test data as you want. Yeah, you can definitely do that. It is free. I think you can fight now. Yeah, it is. Yeah. No. No. Unfortunately. So it supports XCUITest reporting. It's a standard reporting for also supporting the supports Jenkins reporting, XML reporting. So you can parse your reports to your Jenkins dashboard and like modify your reports and with graphs however you want. So we have two types of reporting. We have reports for iOS team, and it's normally like logs and XCUITest. I mean, you can read it easily what passed and what failed. But we also have like dashboard for the management. So when managers come and ask like what is passing and what is failing, like we can easily do that. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to come to me after session. I will yield to the second presenter. I know it's very exciting, and it's the whole lot, many topics that we can talk about like forever. It's really exciting too. Like, yeah, feel free to come to me and like ask whatever questions you might have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, let's do a 5 minutes break.